Thank you, Mom. Thank you. Please close the door.
Right.
Thank you. Hey. Hey, everyone. How are you guys? Do me a favor. If you could just share this live, if you can. All right, that's me. All right. We good? Tell me we're good. Oh my goodness. You know, yesterday I was vlogging in City Market and a random young man just walked up to me. And without missing a beat, without even greeting me, he just walked up to me and said, you've gained. I looked at him and I thought, you whippersnapper, you. How dare you roll up on me and tell me that? In Zambia, that's a compliment. In Zambia, when someone says to you, you've gained, and they do this, you've gained. Guys, that's not a compliment, okay? You're low-key telling us we're obese. You're low-key saying, go to the gym. I know. You're preaching to the choir. I know this. I know. I'll get to it, okay? I'm going to start the gym very soon. This week, possibly, you know, Thursday maybe. The very latest, Monday next week, okay? We'll see how it goes, okay? Let's just put it that way. Guys, it's a beautiful, what is today, Tuesday? Because I have so much fun here at the office. Guys, tell me, is something wrong? Because I'm not sure if you're this way. And I've been this way for years, okay? I actually get excited about coming to work in the morning. Does anybody else feel that way about work? And here's the thing. If work feels like work and you don't love it, you don't enjoy what you're doing, honey, you're on the wrong train. You need to get off of that train, hop on a train that makes you happy. Find Sally Fields. I heard Sally Fields say this many years ago. I've never forgotten it. It's always been etched in my mind. It's always been bordered in my cerebellum. And it's this. Find something that you love to do and then figure out a way to get paid for it. Woo, that's a good word there, boy. Let me say it again. Let me break it down for you. Find something that you love to do and then figure out a way to get paid for it. Now, that's life and living right there. I'll tell you now. That's not death and dying. That's not existing. That, my brothers and sisters, is life and living. All right. Guys, got a couple of things we need to talk about. And thank you again for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to spend a few moments with me here on SML TV. You know, one of the things that I consistently have to watch is I have to watch myself to ensure that I don't slouch. Because, you know, sometimes when you get into a comfortable posture, when you watch the video later on, it sort of indicates that you're slouching, and then I need to correct that. I need to make sure that my back is straight. One of the things I always do in the evening is that I review my videos, and this is Creator 101. They're movie stars, they're creators that tell you they never watch their work, they never watch the things they do. That's not a good idea, because how else are you going to hone your craft if you don't know where the kinks are, if you don't know where the blemishes are, for you to correct those. You know, sometimes earlier in my vlogging creative career, if you can call it that, I'm live. If you can call it that, I would go through my videos, and my wife would say to me, she'd say, "Honey, do you love the sound of your own voice, or what is the deal? Because you've been on there 45 minutes." And then I had to explain to her. I said, "Well, honey, I'm not only am I editing, I'm critiquing what I'm doing." Because, you know, when you critique yourself, it's the best feedback is from the audience. That's the best. Okay. But there are times when, you know, when you're watching your content internally, you can tell, okay, I should add more of this. I should do less of that. I should do this, that, and the other. That's how you improve. One of the things that I am trying to avoid, and I do it subliminally, is that the word subliminally? No, I do it unconsciously. That's the word, not subliminally, unconsciously, is that I point. Pointing is not a good thing. There's people that don't like that. People that consider pointing confrontational. So I have to make a conscious decision not to point. Rather, I do this. It's much more, it's easier to do this or to do this than to point. Pointing is confrontational. All right, let's get into it. Oh, incidentally, before I get into this little dissertation, did you guys hear David Justice the other day? Let me bring up the speed. This may sound like gossiping, but it's not. It's really just information that's bottled up in here, and I'm bringing it out here. Remember Halle Berry? Halle Berry is a very famous African-American actress, okay? In America, she's black. Over here, she's colored. In Zambia, we don't call them black. Halle Berry is not a black woman in Zambia. She's colored. So, Halle Berry, her ex-husband, David Justice. Remember David Justice? He was a famous baseball player. David Justice has just recently shared his experience with Halle Berry. In the days that they were married, let me bring up the speed. Halle Berry, after getting divorced from David Justice, the word on the street was she got divorced because of an abusive relationship, because she felt that the marriage was abusive. And the whole world, everybody thought and felt that David Justice was maybe physically abusing Halle Berry. And you know, we took it as that. Everybody figured, oh, well, maybe that's the reason they broke up. Well, fast forward to just a few weeks ago. David Justice has just shared on a podcast that it actually wasn't that. He said that one of the things they did as a couple was that they realized that they weren't compatible because David Justice wanted a woman that could cook and clean. David Justice came from a traditional home setting. And there are people like that. And guys, let me give you a word of advice, okay? And this is marriage 101. When you're dating and you see certain flags, pay attention to those flags. Don't ignore them. Okay, discuss that, because if you ignore those flags, those very tiny little, the Word of God calls them foxes in the vines. When you see the little tiny foxes in the vines and you ignore them and you think they're inconsequential, they don't matter. Well, honey, there's coming a time those tiny little foxes become ravenous wolves and they will devour everything in their path. So if you're dating someone and you can tell that this person you're dating is not a regular sort of traditional woman in the sense that she doesn't cook, she doesn't clean. And if that is important to you, if that is critical to you, love is not enough to camouflage that. That's going to be a problem in your marriage. So David Justice basically shared that, look, one of the reasons Halle Berry and I never really were compatible was because I wanted a traditional woman. I wanted a woman that cooks and cleans. I wanted a woman that does what women do, you know. But if you're dating someone that says to you that she doesn't do that and you want that, that's going to be a problem for you in your marriage later on. So you have to be compatible. Now, if you're the type of guy that doesn't mind that, and you're with someone that doesn't do that, you're perfect. Then you're a couple that loves to go out to eat. You love going to restaurants. You've got the money to do it. Okay? Or maybe you have a maid or someone that you hire. You hire a chef or a cook or somebody that does your cook, and you're fine with that. And both of you are on the same page with that. You're fine to do it. But talk about incompatibility. The Word of God calls it being unequally yoked. That's the reason. That's the reason the Bible says that. Is that, you know, if you're unequally yoked, you're off kilter. You're off balance. Okay. So anyway, I felt sad for David Justice. I did. That all these years we thought that he was abusive to Halle Berry, and David Justice sort of brought out the fact that Halle had gone out with some guy that was abusive to her, hit her so hard that, you know, Halle Berry has lost part of her hearing. Hearing. Did you guys know this? She's lost part of her hearing because she was in a relationship that was so abusive, that was so violent, that this guy punched her so hard that part of her hearing is impaired. Why would anyone want to beat such a beautiful girl? You know, it's crazy. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. The AG, the Attorney General, did you hear his interview this past Sunday? I can't think of one thing the AG said that was reprehensible. He spoke clearly. He spoke concisely. He spoke factually. He spoke within the perimeter of the law. And he bemoaned the fact that his innocent 104-year-old mother was dragged through the mud by EcL's older sister. And it was a by the way mention because Gervasio Zulu brought it up and said, you know, you're being insulted for doing the right thing. He says, yeah, I mean, that's the life we've chosen. And unfortunately, my poor mother has been dragged into this. Here's what I feel. I feel that anyone that is angry with you and then they proceed to insult your mother, I mean, that is unconscionable. That's gutter. That's just low down, dirty dog gutter. That's what that is, you know, and it's got no place, especially when you're dealing with people that are older and that know better. I mean, when you hear young people do it, you know, 17, 18-year-olds that are cussing up a storm, that can at least be understood, if not condoned, by virtue of the fact that they're young, they're inexperienced, they're ignorant. They should know better, but they don't know better. But for those unpalatables to come from a woman that is of age, a woman that is supposed to be mature by virtue of her age, and she speaks with such repulsive candor. She uses vulgarity that would make a billy goat puke. She uses profanity that would make a PF Kada blush. It's just really sad. Very, very sad indeed. Before I get into my main topic, let me also say to you that many of you know that a couple of UPND Kadas made a video where they referred to the body of the late President Edgar Lungu, they called the body akatumbi, which directly translated means a little corpse. Now, in my language, that is culturally unacceptable. It is not kosher for us to refer to the deceased or us to refer to people that have passed on as akatumbi. We say ichitumbi. That is respect for the dead. Now, these UPND guys were saying this, and in their minds, they thought that they were talking in jest, they were joking, but in reality, they were deeply disrespectful. Not only were they disrespectful to the Lungu family, they were very disrespectful to Edgar Lungu himself, being the former head of state. Now, this is what I applaud. One of the guys, the guy that was making the video, and he's a friend of mine, I know him, really cool guy, you know. He just messed up that day. He came on his page and he issued an apology. And I want you guys, if you haven't watched that apology, you need to watch that, because I'm telling you, that is how an apology is done. It was concise, it was to the point, it was sincere. Above all, it was sincere. It's one thing to issue an apology because of public pressure. That's one thing. But it's a completely different thing when you truly realize that what you have said was not only wrong, it was disrespectful. You now realize the folly of your ways. You understand, in retrospect, you look at it and say, you know what? That wasn't right. I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't right. I shouldn't have said that. That wasn't right. I spoke out of turn. My excitement got the better of me. In my excitement, I said the wrong thing. If you watch that apology, he was very sincere, and he took full responsibility. The telltale sign of an insincere apology is when you begin to scapegoat. The moment you begin to say, you are absolving yourself of blame. Ooh, that's a deep one there, boy. That's a good one there. Let me say it again. Let that sizzle in your spirit. Let that marinate in your soul. Let that bubble in your oblongata. When you're sincere, you never blame anyone else. You don't blame it on the alcohol. Yo, tuari kolwa. So, katuishi chachiti kerene ireni ndabane fenare randa. Awo tuachita apologize tuari kolwa. The moment anyone blames the alcohol, honey, don't listen to Jamie Foxx. Huh? Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the alcohol. That won't fly. You risk alienating yourself when you become insincere by moving the responsibility off onto others, thereby absolving yourself of blame. This guy didn't do that. He said, look, this whole thing was my fault. I did the wrong thing. I shouldn't have done it. And I spoke out of turn. Okay. Is the network bad? Tell me in the comments. I just said, somebody said, check your network. Tell me. That's always a disturbing, when you read such comments, check your network. That's never a good thing. Tell me quickly. Please tell me. I have water today. I'm waiting to read comments saying it's okay, the signal's fine. If it's not, I'll know how to switch, and I'll know how to swap. But I need somebody to tell me if this broadcast is clear. Please. No? We hear you. Can you see me? Very poor. Is it really? The video quality is very poor today. Is it really? Okay. Okay. Well, sometimes the video quality is not so good. It's cutting. Okay. All right. So here it is. Let me also make reference to Makebi Zulu's mismanagement of this funeral, this burial. All of the roadblocks Makebi is attempting to place in the way of a smooth procession in as far as this funeral is concerned will ultimately fall away. All they're doing now, when I say they, I'm talking about Makebi Zulu and the nuclear family. The other day I misspoke, I said nucleus. What I meant was nuclear family, not nucleus. Makebi Zulu and the nuclear family of the Lungus are doing everything within their power to simply buy time. And for what? The motive, even though the AG clarified, if you remember the conversation the AG had on Sunday with Gervasio Zulu, Zulu asked the AG pointedly, has the Lungu family approached the government about dropping charges in as far as court cases are concerned? The AG was very emphatic. He was very clear. He said, to his knowledge, the Lungu family have not approached them about dropping any charges in exchange. All right. Sorry, guys. I need to. Sometimes the network doesn't gel. Sometimes the network doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So I was using Wi-Fi earlier, but now I'm using the data on my phone. So please, I've switched from Wi-Fi to phone data. I'm hoping the phone data will work much, much better. Please tell me in the comments if we're on the same page, if we're doing it. The network is not networking. Sometimes that happens. It does. Tell me in the comments if we're back on, so that I finish my thought on that. It's networking now. Good. I'm glad. We're together now. Okay. So let me reiterate. I strongly believe that Makebi Zulu has deliberately, in conjunction with the Lungu family, in conjunction with the nuclear Lungu family, that is to say, Walungu's wife and children and Makebi Zulu, they have deliberately mismanaged this funeral procession for personal reasons. And it has everything to do with dodging the legal confrontation, the inevitable legal confrontation that awaits them. That's the only thing that makes sense. Even though, to be fair, the AG made it clear that the Lungu family have not formally in any way requested that the government drops charges in exchange for their cooperation. The AG made that abundantly clear. But regardless of that, that still doesn't negate the fact that that is the game plan. It's the only thing that makes logical sense. And for Makebi Zulu to say that the AG's broadcast on Sunday was so offensive, was so reprehensible, was so repugnant, was so repulsive, was so repudiating that the Lungu family are now disappointed. If you watch that entire interview with the AG, with Gervasio Zulu, there's not one thing the AG said that was out of turn. He spoke factually, he spoke clearly, he spoke legally, he spoke fairly. So Makebi Zulu will be hard pressed to pinpoint which part of the interview was so reprehensible. There was none. Which stands to reason, it stands to reason that the Lungu family, through its conduit, Makebi, money man Zulu, will grasp at anything to further legitimize their desire to avoid burying EcL in Zambia for their own personal goal, which is self-preservation. It makes sense to them to bury EcL in South African soil so that they have the impetus, they have now the legitimacy to say, our father is buried in South Africa. There's no reason for us to return to Zambia. Our father is here, we will stay here with him. Now, against that backdrop, there is this xenophobic sentiment floating around in South Africa, which to me, I don't understand that. You know, the South Africans are there are some sectors of South Africa, black South Africa, that are so hell-bent on ensuring that people from other countries do not benefit in any way from South Africa, legally, illegally, or otherwise. And they're literally going through hospitals, expelling people and telling them, go back to your country. Which brings me to the question, why would you want to bury your father in a country where black South Africans are going around, walking through hospitals, verbally, in some cases, physically ejecting foreigners or non-black South Africans? And it's important to point that out because a black South African will never grab an Indian, will never grab a white guy, will never grab a German, white, Anglo-Saxon and throw them out of South Africa. Oh no, they will only target Zimbabweans and other black people. But why would you want to bury your father in a country, number one, that isn't his? South Africa is not for Balungu. Balungu was a Zambian citizen. Not only that, he served as president. So why would you want to bury your loved one, your father, your husband, Esther Lungu, in a country that doesn't belong to him, in a country where people are highly xenophobic, in a country where black South Africans don't like other black people? They don't. Isn't it easier? Isn't it easier to bring him in a country where he is welcomed by virtue of the fact that he served as president? He is a citizen of this land. This is his homeland. That makes sense to me. But because of your political wrangles, because of your court cases, your judgment has been blurred. Your judgment has been skewed. And regardless of how long it'll take, and it'll be here very soon, that appeal or the application to appeal will be thrown out. It will be thrown out. Ultimately, it'll be thrown out. And then you'll come up with another strategy. You'll come up with another plan. No, let's do this. You're occupying your life with barring the burial of your father in his homeland. Ooh, that's deep. Your life is occupied with blocking the burial, the rightful place of burial for your father because of your personal issues. But regardless of what happens, when the dust settles and when the dew dries, ultimately, EcL will be buried here in Zambia. All right. I thought I'd share that with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry about the network. Sometimes that happens. You know, sorry about that. All right. Thank you so much. Do you notice I've got water beside me now? All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.